Welcome to the Nehemiah Business Lifecycle Podcast. I'm your host, Patrice Tsague. This is an exciting day. I'm here today with the CEO, Chairman, and soon to be retired, I guess is the word, CEO of Correct Craft. I want to read his bio. I want to embarrass him because I want you to understand who we have with us in the studio. I was just so impressed. I began reading one of his book. First, let me say this to you. So he's written several books, Making Life Better, Education of a CEO. I'm reading that one right now. I've got both of those actually. Got them free. Thank you so much. At a Christian Chamber event. Mindset Matters, uh, Yeargin on Management. It's another book. And he also has Education of a Traveler. I want to ask him about that. I know that from reading his book. He kind of talked about how that came about. And then he had What Would Dad Say? And I also noticed that he had other books around, I think it was like children books or so. But I want to read this because I want you to understand what we have as we kind of go through the next 30 minutes and just glean from Bill. Bill Yeargin is a thought leader, CEO, board member, global traveler. He's gone through 110 countries, a culture evangelist. I want to hear more about that. Giving that all of you guys who are watching and listening to us, you are intentional about building a kingdom company, a company that honors Christ and advances the gospel in the marketplace. He has authored 9 books, including the bestseller Education of a CEO, and has shared his leadership insight through innumerable articles. He has been a popular speaker at hundreds of events on 6 continents of the world. Correct Craft is where Bill has served as of tomorrow, has served for the last 20 years as CEO. It's a 100-year-old company with global operations. Correct Crafts has subsidiaries including multiple boat brands, engine brands, entities devoted solely to vertical integration and innovation. The company has manufacturing facilities across the U.S. and distributes into dozens of countries. Under Bill's leadership, Correct Craft has developed a unique culture of making life better. They won all the industry major awards and were recognized as Florida's Manufacturer of the Year. Correct Craft was also identified as the boating industry most innovative company. A passionate lifelong learner, Bill has earned a bachelor's degree in accounting and MBA. So he started as an accountant before becoming a CEO. One thing also interesting about Bill, he served both President Obama all the way to President Donald Trump in terms of the president he has served on their council. Also active at the governor level with the state of Florida. Um, Bill, first, thank you. What an honor to have you. Welcome to the podcast.
Patrice, it is my pleasure to be here with you today, and I've been looking forward to this. So thank you for having me.
You know, Bill, your story is incredibly amazing. I want to start with the end and go back to the beginning. We are honored. Here's what's interesting. So I had the privilege to meet um, one. I think at one point he was the CEO of Correct Crab, the son or the grandson, I'm not sure which one he was. Before
Mhm.
the week before he died, you also made teased me a bit, made me scared me. Thought that that meeting, I had a meeting with him, and I did a podcast with him that never saw the light of day.
Oh no.
I cannot find the footage, and he was about 90 some years old, still coming to the office, not active. It's really a sovereign act of God that I will interview you the day before your transition. And by the way, don't you die on me now, Bill.
I'm hoping not to. And if I do, keep this video.
That's right. So tomorrow, how do you feel?
I'm sorry, Patrice.
How do you feel about your transition
I'm
from
doing great.
day to day running the company?
Yeah, I'm great. I've been here 20 years. We've had a huge impact. We've grown from a $39 million company to over $1 billion company.
Wow.
We've got manufacturing. We had one manufacturing plant in Orlando in 20 years ago. Now we have them all over the U.S. and we distribute into about 70 countries around the world. So we've accomplished a lot together. I've done very little myself, but I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by a great team who's done some pretty amazing stuff. And a lot of people have asked me, Patrice, why? Why would you step down? And because I've got a great job, we're one of the biggest companies in the marine industry, got unusual access in Washington and D.C. and Tallahassee, where we're based. I say two things. One is it's the right time for the company. We've prepared for many years, several years for this, and the company is in the exact right spot for a leadership transition. And secondly, as much as I love my job and I love my company, love this company, I don't own it, but I love this company and I love our team. It's not who I am. And a lot of people have a hard time understanding how do you separate that identity of being the CEO of Correct Craft from who you are. And don't get me wrong, I love this place. I love my team. I love my job. But it's not it's not where I get my self-worth and my identity. I get that through my faith, my family, my desire to have an impact no matter what I'm doing. So it's okay. The company's in a good spot. I'm in a good spot. I'm going to stay on as board chair. So I'll be around here for a while, just not on a day-to-day basis. And I believe our best days are still ahead.
Wow. So, Bill, a lot of people say that, right? Particular believers about making sure that identity is not tying their success with their company, but very few people actually live it out. How easy or difficult was it for you to define an end game in terms of as CEO run the company day to day? How difficult or easy was that? Particularly when you're winning.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything special about me, but I just haven't had a hard time with it. We have been winning, but I want to go out, at a good time. I want to leave the company in a good spot. This is the 6th year in a row that the marine industry has been down. But our company overall is doing really well. We've developed with a lot of great people, a good business model. So even in down markets, we can do well. And we've prepared for the last 5 years. I've been trying to do all the hard things and get all the hard stuff out of the way so that the team, after I leave tomorrow, the team can focus on growth and they don't have to fix anything. And so I'm happy with where the company is. I'm happy that for myself that I'll be able to have an opportunity to focus on some other things. And I honestly don't get my self-worth and self-identity by being the company's CEO as much as I love it. And so I'm okay with it. And the company's going to be in really good shape, even after
I
I'm gone.
love it. That's incredible. And we'll come back to you next season, which hopefully will include mentoring this guy here. When I read your book, I picked up your book, and I was just so impressed by your simplicity, but also the depth of the book, Education of a CEO. And I was like, wow, to think I know this guy. Let's go to the beginning. You started out as an accountant.
I started out as an accountant at 21. I got my CPA, went to work for, at the time, the world's largest accounting firm, Coopers & Lybrand. It's now PricewaterhouseCoopers. But Patrice, I realized pretty early on that I wasn't really wired to be an accountant. I'm a pretty high extrovert. I want to be with people. I want to lead. I want to manage. And so I went back, got my MBA, and just took my career a different direction. I'm very, very thankful for that strong financial foundation because it's helped me throughout my entire career. But it wasn't really where I wanted to spend most of my time. So I
Got
sort
it.
of
So your degree didn't necessarily define your career. There was a good foundation for it. Is that a
Well,
good way
I
of
got
saying
my
it?
accounting degree because I had a professor in my freshman year convince me, and I'm very thankful for him. I've told a lot of students the same thing, that the single best way to have business success is to start with an accounting degree. And he
Mm,
said, because you understand the language of business, you understand how business works. And so I did that, and I'm very thankful for that. And it's good advice, and I've given it to many people too. But it just, doing spreadsheets and preparing financials really just wasn't how I wanted to spend my career. I'm very thankful for people who do that, but it's just not what I wanted to do. So I sort of
Now,
transitioned
In your book, though, when you were first asked to lead as CEO, you didn't feel necessarily ready or prepared, but you became very good at it. So, at which point in your journey did you feel like, I got this? And what was it?
Well, I don't know that, I've been CEO for 20 years. And I'm still not prepared to say I've got this. But it's it's a long story, and I touch a little bit on it on a couple of the books I've written. But when I came to CorrectCraft, I was the fifth CEO in 5 years. It was owned by a wonderful Christian family that just had a lot of challenges and was dealing with a lot of strife within their family. And they tried to hire me to be the fourth, and I walked away. I said, I'm not interested, because I wanted to start a consulting firm. That was my dream. I
That's
never
right.
wanted to be a CEO. I wanted to be a consultant. I wanted to have my own consulting firm. And so that was my plan. I'd hired a marketing firm. I'd formed the entity. I mean, I was going down that path, Patrice. And then they hired somebody else to be the fourth CEO. He lasted about a year. Then they came to me again, and I won't go into it unless you really want to, because it takes a couple of minutes. But God just spoke to me so clear. He wrote it on the sky and said, you're supposed to take this job. So I picked up my family and we moved to Orlando from South Florida. We were very deep rooted in South Florida. So it was tough, but we moved to Orlando and took the job, and it's been a great 20 years.
But before that, one of the reasons why they called on you was because you had done some turnarounds. You were known, you had built quite a reputation. Let's go back to that, because that wasn't your first rodeo.
No, I had when I was 30 years old in the early 90s, I had been approached by a gentleman who I'd worked for before to help turn around a company. Today it's called Rybovich. It's a big company in our industry that had gone through a couple mergers and had was losing money and had some big challenges. And the owner of the company reached out to me and asked me if I would come and basically help turn it around and lead a turnaround of the company. I worked with his son, Jim, and the owner, Ed, and the three of us, we turned that company around. And it was a great story. And in that story, I was giving a speech about that story in the mid-90s at a conference. And at that conference, there was a news magazine publisher there that asked me to start writing for him, asked if I'd start writing a column on leadership. Well, I did that, and it sort of took off. And next thing you know, I started getting invited to go to conferences all over the world. I mean, literally every continent except Antarctica I've spoken at. And I would go and I'd speak about leadership or in some cases faith or different things. And so that I was well known in the industry, and starting with that turnaround. And that's how the family that owned the company knew to pursue me.
Wow, that's incredible. Bill, when you look at your journey, about the 20 years, this 20-year turnaround story, when you look, what are the key things you say that were essential in you making this work? You kind of gave, I love your talk at the chamber. You gave this amazing talk. That's what really got my attention. And one of them had to do with the missional emphasis of what you the company. But what were some key things, as other CEOs watching and listening right now, and they're saying, I want to be able to turn my company around? What were some key things, some key nuggets?
Okay. So first of all, you have to have a great product that people are willing to pay you a fair price for.
That's good.
And so a lot of times, Patrice, people think, oh, this is great, I've got this product. But if people aren't willing to pay you a fair price for it, you've got a product problem. You've got to start with that. Whatever you're offering, and you're not the judge of that as the owner. The person's the judge of that is the person that's going to give you money for it, a product or a service. So if they won't give you the money you need to survive for that, you've either got a problem with your product or you've got a problem with your story. So I tell people, I was on a call just an hour ago with a gentleman who's got a business, and he's trying to scale his business. And I told him, I said, you've got to have a great product. You've got to have a great story, and then you've got to be courageous in your pricing. And if you have a great product and a great story, people will pay you what you need to be successful. So, we started off with Nautique and Quackcraft had a great, before I got here, 75-year history of great products, but those products had fallen behind. And so the very first thing we did was we said, if I said it 1,000 times, Patrice, without great product, nothing else matters. So we start there. We got to work with our product. But also there's a lot more to it. And, I talk a lot about culture and, culture in the specific culture we have here at Quackcraft has driven a lot of our success. Our mission is building boats to the glory of God. We want to honor God in everything we do. But I told our employees when I got here that we're going to use our platform for good. We're going to do some good things. But I really couldn't demonstrate that until I'd been here a few months. And we went on an employee mission trip. And I took 25 employees to Mexico. Very, very difficult situation. I explained, you heard a little bit of the story that night in Maryland. We were together. I shared the story, very difficult situation. And at the end of the trip, though, people said things like, that was the best few days of my life. And it's because we had helped a family who was never going to buy a boat, Patrice. They were never going to be able to pay us back in any way. But we had taken a few days of our time and we'd helped them. And so people want to be part of something big. People want to be part of an organization that's really helping others. And so when we got our product right, and then we create the culture around that we're going to take this product and we're going to have success in the marketplace. When we have success in the marketplace, we're going to use that platform and that success to help other people, making life better, what we call it. Then you get this flywheel going, and it's super powerful, because when people see that your intent is genuine and you want to use your platform for good and you want to help people, it excites everyone from your employees to those that deal with you outside the company to your customers. And if you can get that right, it's very, very, very powerful. And so, we got our product right. We developed the right culture. We did other things like strategic planning and so forth that were important. But, that culture had such a huge impact on our success. And I'm very, very thankful that we did that trip, because that trip, we're losing millions of dollars. We were in bad shape. And that trip was the turning point, because employees said, hey, I'm part of a company that's going to do something good. Everybody rallied around fixing our problems. We got our problems fixed. And since then, I've taken employees, Patrice, to Cambodia, India, Ethiopia, Uganda, Kenya, all across the Caribbean, Central America. And we've really used our platform to help folks. And it doesn't cost us anything. We pay a lot to do that, but it doesn't cost us anything, because it's a huge investment in our company and our team. And it not only do we help the people that we're going to serve, but we help our own team, because it changes our lives too. And when it changes our lives, it changes our company and it helps our culture. And so one of the things we talk about a lot is this idea of choose impact. I don't know if you can see it on my shirt here. I'm wearing today, impact. I'm happy that we've grown 25 times from 39 million to $1 billion. And I'm happy that we've made money and picked up market share and all this kind of stuff. But I'm proud of the way we've done it, because we've done it by choosing impact. And by choosing impact, I mean, we've grown not because we've tried to grow, but because we've tried to put the best possible products out there for people to have fun on the water and do great things with their families and make memories. And people appreciate that, and they buy our products, and that allows us to grow. So sorry, that was a long answer. But
no, that was so good. Which leads me to my next question for you. You talked about the fact that your product enables people to, it makes their lives better in terms of your reinvest, but also enable people to have a great life for their families. Or I forgot the term you use. Let's talk about that, because people look at your product. Some people might say, "Geesh, this is a luxury," but you've been able to connect it with eternal impact as well as with flourishing. Could you speak to that a little bit?
100%, Patrice. A friend of mine, a guy named Jay Nichols, wrote a book called Blue Mind. And in the book, it's a great book. He wrote about this idea that people are healthier mentally, emotionally, and spiritually when they're in, on, near, or under the water.
Hmm.
And Patrice, I don't know if you've ever sat on a beach or at a lake or on a dock and just sat there, and you can just sort of feel the stress melting away a little bit, right?
I
And
do. Yep.
he's my friend Jay, unfortunately he's passed away, but he documented this in his book and the impact that it has. So I tell people, I say, when we're providing them boats, I understand that not everybody can afford a boat, and I wish they could, and I wish we could help with that. But I understand not everybody can afford a boat. But the people that we're providing products for, we're not only helping them build relationships with their families, we're not only helping them create memories, but we're helping them be healthier mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually by getting them on, near, under, or on the water. And so it's way more than a business trying to sell boats. I mean, yes, we've got to survive. We've got to pay our employees. We've got to be able to invest in the future. We got to be able to sustain our business. So we have to make money, but it's way bigger than that. We're helping people immeasurably by getting them on the water. This is my two daughters are adults now, but the whole time they were growing up, Saturdays, Sundays after church, we're at the lake, we're on the water, and I attribute that relationship that I have with my daughters today, not entirely, but a big chunk of it had to be a result of time that we spent together. And they wanted to be with us, and they wanted to be on the water. And so it's way beyond, taking fiberglass and putting engines in it and building boats and selling people boats to have fun. It's way beyond that. We're making life better for people immeasurably.
That is so good. That is so good. Bill, your journey has been full of incredible successes. Let's talk about any challenge you've had along the way and how did you navigate it? What's been the biggest challenge for you? How did you navigate it?
Well, probably we've had some challenges, no question. The single biggest challenge was the downturn of '08 and '09. I started here at '06. By the end of '08, things were starting to come together pretty well. And then the Great Recession hit, and we lost 90% of our business, Patrice, overnight.
Wow.
And that was very, very difficult time. Very difficult time. But we tried to do well by our employees. We had hundreds of employees that we had to let go because we had no work for them. I literally had no work for them. But the way that we did it, it's probably a story for another time, but we gave them 60 days. We invested in them, give them heavy training. We also made a lot of changes that probably would have made over 10 years. We made them in 10 weeks because, it was so difficult. So it was a very difficult time, but I like to think we honored God with how we did that. I like
Mm.
to think that we were, good to our employees as we could be, considering we had no revenue coming in, and we did the best we could to do the best with that. At the end of the day, it actually ended up being a good thing for us because it allowed us to make a lot of change very quickly and allowed us to really position ourselves for the huge success that we've had over the last close to 20 years.
Oh wow, that is so good. That is so good. Guys, I'm talking with Bill Yeargin. The Bill, is it Yeargin or Yeargin?
Yeargin.
Okay, perfect. Yeargin, the current CEO and board chair of Correct Craft. He took the company from $38 billion, I'm sorry, $1 million to over $1 billion. He's written some amazing book, Making Life Better, Education of a CEO, Mindset Matters, Jurgen on Management, Education of a Traveler. By the way, Bill, tell me about Education of a Traveler. So what was that all about?
I've had an unusual opportunity, Patrice, just between work and mission trips and family travel I visit 117 countries. And so the book Education of a Traveler is just stories of visiting those countries. And I think I tell some funny stories, some interesting stories. A lot of people have told me they've enjoyed reading it because it is it's pretty unusual to go to that many places, 117 countries. And so people have enjoyed reading about it and sort of living vicariously a little bit, through me as it relates to the book. And so it's, it was really a pleasure to do that, and a really phenomenal opportunity to go so many places.
I love it. Bill, as we prepare to in our time, I'm going to have a quick quiz for you to
Okay.
help our audience understand. I'm going to talk now to Bill, the professor.
Mhm.
And what I'm going to do, this is the first time Bill is seeing this, by the way. This is what we call our life cycle, Bill. You are right here, sir. You're about to exit the company, become chair CEO. But I want you to give one key advice to entrepreneurs at each stage. So, Bill, they're at discovery, they're considering business, not sure what to do. What's one advice Professor Bill would tell them?
Product, 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 product.
I
You
love
got
it.
to have something that people are actually willing to pay you a good money for. People think, what kind of marketing strategy or social media? How should I do this? Or, it starts with product that people are willing to give you money for. And
I love it.
so I would definitely start there.
They got the right product now, Bill, and they actually now have active revenue. So they're now in startup. In the
Yeah.
startup stage, what's the one key advice you would give them?
To make the right future investments, but to make strong future investments in your product, but also you need to do it. You need to be scrappy. You have to be it. You have to do that while also, breaking even cash flow wise. And I see that's number 3 in the there, but breaking even cash flow wise. This gentleman I spoke to just a couple hours ago, I mentioned he had a great idea and he wanted to go out, and he thought, I think I can go out and get some startup money, get people to invest in my business. I told him, if there's any way you can avoid that, do it. Excuse me, Patrice. I said, because you're going to have a partner that's going to have high expectations. And if you can be scrappy and you can sacrifice in the early stages and keep 100% of that company, do it. You're not in business to raise equity money. You're in business to create a business model that's going to generate profits for years to come. So don't be happy and celebrate the fact that somebody would give you $1 million or some amount of money to start your business. Because somebody gives you that, I guarantee you they're going to have high expectations, and it's going to be very challenging. So if you can be scrappy during the startup stage, sacrifice, work, do 2 jobs yourself, do whatever you need to do, while breaking even, that's going to position you really well for the future.
I love it. So now they're broke even. Now they're bringing enough revenue to cover their expenses. Here's the question. What's the key advice you give them to get from here to profitability?
So, again, continue to focus on your business model, have an appropriate level of investment in the future, but don't, don't forget about cash flow. I'm a CPA from back days years ago, and you can be a lot of profitable companies, Patrice, go out of business. And the reason they go out of business is because they're focused on their operating profit and not their cash flow. And so they invest in capital assets, or they invest in working capital. Their inventory goes up and they spend too much on inventory. So profitability can be a trap, because the accounting rules for how you calculate profit is different than how you calculate cash flow. So I would say, focus on cash flow probably more than profit, and make sure you're making decisions to sustain your business for a long time. A lot of profitable businesses go out of business because they don't do that.
Oh, that is so good. So with that, now they are profitable. They're creating margin consistent with the industry. What's the key advice you give them?
Make sure you fully understand your gross margin, because a lot of people don't do that. Be assertive with your pricing. Pricing scares business leaders because they're afraid, if I price it a little too high, I'm going to lose everything. But if you come up with a great product and you come up with a great story to go along with that product, you can be courageous in your pricing. And that's how you get to be sustainable. Your next step there is by being courageous with your pricing. But you can't, remember, you're trying to, providing value to your customer does not mean you're cheap, you're inexpensive. Our products, most of our products are very expensive. In some cases, they're the most expensive boats you can buy in that segment. But we're still providing value because we're providing them a lot for what they're getting. So don't try to compete on price. You can't win that. It's a race to the bottom. It'll put you out of business. So have a strong margin, have a great product, a great story to go about it, and then maintain that strong margin.
That is so good. Thank you so much. Despite how you're feeling, man, you are giving great wisdom. Now they're sustainable. What's the key advice you would give them?
Scalability, to continue to grow the business, is look to what your sustainable scalability. We've grown Correct Craft primarily through investing profits back in growth. And looking at growth, there's sustainable capital that you need, and there's growth capital that you need. And we've not gone out and got outside equity, because even though a zillion people would like to invest in our company, because we want to keep that for ourselves, right? And not because we're greedy, but because we use it for good. We pay for all kinds of philanthropy and service trips and all kinds of different things. So take a portion of your profits and invest it in the future. Make sure you're invested in future growth.
Now they're scaling, they're expanding like you did, the national, internationally. What's the key advice you give them?
So the next step, you've got there is succession and exit. I have a hard time thinking along those lines because we buy companies, we have no exit strategy. We're buying them forever. But I will tell you that I've dealt with enough sellers to know that when you're selling your business, you've got two kinds of challenges. One is when you're trying to exit, am I going to try to squeeze out the last dollar, or am I going to sell this to somebody who's going to be a good steward of what I've built? And, we deal with a lot of sellers, and we've bought a lot of companies, Patrice, over the last 15 years. And we don't necessarily pay out the top dollar, but we can commit to people we're going to be a good steward of what they built. And I tell people often they're selling their business, I said, after you sell your business, you're going to, it's not going to be long before you forgot that little bit of extra money you got, but it's going to pain you forever to see how they're treating your company if you don't sell to somebody who's a good steward.
That is so good. That is so good. Two last question. Well, actually three, but let's do the first two first, Bill. So when you think about your journey towards succession where you are now, and so when did you stop planning this, and what has been the key to you being able to today say, hey, I'm turning the keys and this is a well-oiled machine?
I started planning this several years ago. I started planning this before I knew when I was going to step down. I wanted to invest in potential successors, and we have an internal successor that our board and owner are very excited about. And I wanted to do the hard things, Patrice. And I was very intentional about saying, what are the hard things that need to get done that I can do as CEO and not leave for the next person? And so I was very focused on that. But probably the single best thing was a mindset. And that was, I've told many people that the success, part of my legacy is going to be how well the company does for a couple of years after I'm gone. In other words, have I left them in a position where they can be successful for the next 2 or 3 years? At some point, I've been gone long enough that, it's somebody else's, somebody else has to be accountable for that. So my mindset has been, I've got to make sure this company is really well positioned to do well after I'm gone. And because because it's not it's not part of my self-worth or identity, I'm happy to turn the leadership over to somebody who's capable and is going to do a good job. And Wednesday morning, I won't be, pining for, what I had. I mean, I'm sure I'll miss people, and I'll miss, there'll be certain things I'll miss, but it doesn't cut to my core. I mean, the sense of, who I am. I know I'm turning it over at a good time to the right person, and I prepared for that.
What's next for Bill besides chairing the board? Hopefully, it would include mentoring this young man here and hopefully include speaking for us in the future. But what's next for Bill?
I've got a lot of opportunities, Patrice. A lot of people have reached out. I've just really delayed everything into April. I've told people I'm not making any decisions till April. I'm working with a college about regarding helping them set up an executive education program. I've got a couple of organizations that want me to speak for them regarding our craft story and culture. You heard a little bit of it in Maryland a couple of weeks ago. I share a lot and often about our craft story at different business groups and business communities, some Christian, some secular. Um, so I've got a lot of people that want me to come and share the story, and so I'm just going to keep doing that, and see how it goes. I can't sit still, Patrice.
I
I'm not
love
I'm
it.
not retiring. I'm not retiring to sit still.
I love it. Wow. Thank you so much, Bill. Don't you leave yet because I have one last thing for you. Before we go, though, let me do this. So, if you want to know more about Bill, he's on LinkedIn. There's also a website on Correct Craft. You can go there and learn all about Correct Craft and their journey. Also, there are some amazing books he's written, Making Life Better, Education of a CEO, Mindset Matters, Yeargin on Management, Education of a Traveler. Those books can be found at Amazon, Thrift Books, or anywhere where your books are sold. Those are a great way. Imagine having a CEO just teach you through books. That's a great way to do it. And of course, if you want to know about the Nehemiah entrepreneurship community, how we can come alongside you as an entrepreneur, help you to build a kingdom company or figure out what God has called you to do in business, you can go to our website, Nehemiah eCommunity nehemiahecommunity.com. There you can learn about a training program, whether it's biblical entrepreneurship. Bill talked a lot about his identity not being tied to the business. We have a course called Identity and Destiny that really help you navigate that. Or Serve with Love, which help you do how do you bring love into your business. Or you can learn about our coaching program, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's group coaching, whatever that looks like, so that somebody can come alongside you and help you along your journey. Or you can learn about access to capital, how to get connected with others who may want to invest into your business. But as Bill mentioned, warning, you want to self finance as much as possible. That is God's best, right? Because that minimizes trouble down the line, that allows you to maximize everything you got and allow you not to be over leveraged. And then you want to learn about our community. We have over 5,000 entrepreneurs from Asia, Africa, Latin America, Europe that are all collaborating together to build kingdom companies. Become a member, join our community so that you can begin to thrive in community in building, growing your business. We have an event coming up in August called the Nehemiah Summit, where you can learn about leadership, the fact that leadership matters as you navigate your business. We'd love to have you learn about it on our website. With that said, Bill, one last question for you. There are people watching and listening from all over the world. These are entrepreneurs that are trying to figure it out. They're between the crisis happening in the Middle East with the war, between oil prices going up, the fear of inflation, all this uncertainty. And for those of us in the kind of business I am with Smart Optimal Solution with streetlights, we're dealing with the issue of tariffs, right? With the tariff wars happening. So as we face all of that, what advice would you give CEOs who are navigating all that uncertainty?
It's a great question, Patrice. We're dealing with all of those things. Every single
Mhm.
one of them that you mentioned, we're dealing with. As I said, we're in 70 countries, so got a lot of global, impact to our business. But I would say, choose impact. Think of the long run. Try to make good long run decisions. Try not to get captured, by a short term problem. I understand we all have to deal with the tactical every day, but try to keep as much of a strategic mindset, as you can. And then, as the Stoics sometimes say, use the obstacle as the way. You know, the a lot of times when people run into challenges, they turn around and they walk away. But the people that are most successful, Patrice, look at challenges and they figure out how to use that to their advantage.
That is
So
so good.
I can't tell you in every case, without specific examples, how I might approach that. But I can tell you that we've got a mindset of when tough times come, that can be good for us because other people are going to fade away. Other people aren't going to make good decisions. Other people are going to not think in the long run. And it's an opportunity for us to excel when there's tough times. So the key is to find that opportunity. How's this a chance for us to really excel in our business? So those are just a few things that off the top of my mind, Patrice. I hope that's helpful.
That is so good. Listen, you heard it here, guys. His advice on the last day before he turns over the reins at Correct Craft. Listen, if you enjoyed this podcast, I want you to do me a favor, share it. Share it on your LinkedIn, share it on your social media, whatever platform you like. Friends, share with friends. That which inspires and encourages them. You know somebody right now who can use this. Share it with them. Let me pray for you. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord enable you to steward those things that are under your care, to steward them in such a way that one day you'll hear those wonderful words, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. Guess what? He'll not make you rule much. God bless you. Thanks for watching and listening. Bill, feel better, brother.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's just allergies. It's totally my pleasure. I'm on LinkedIn, so anybody listening wants to reach out, that's the best place to get a hold of me. But sorry, my allergies are bothering me today, but I'm fine, and it's quite an honor. Thank you, Patrice.
Congratulations. God bless. Thank you, bye. Bye-bye.